To make a man, it takes courage, patience, skill, and most of all, love. Welcome to Vision for Young Men, the show designed to help you be the best man you can be. Now here is my dad, Alonzo Richard.
I'm here. Good afternoon. Good evening. I am here and we're about to start this show. Thank you, Tommy, for that nice introduction you gave me. I appreciate my boys helping when they can. You know, they really help. That was my son, Tommy, with the little introduction thing there. He said, Daddy, I got to work on it some more because it's just not quite right like I like it. And I love that about him. He's a professional and a perfectionist. Anyway, we have an amazing show for you this evening. And I'm sure that a lot of people have heard about what Pastor T.G. Jakes have been caught saying. Can I use that? Caught saying? Well, he's created somewhat of a firestorm. And we are going to examine it this evening. If you want to participate, there is a link streaming right. It's streaming right along the bottom of my screen. And if you just type in that link, or if you can click on it, it'll allow you to come into the program. Now, if you want to hide yourself, you just simply make your picture an avatar. You know, you just say turn off camera, it'll turn off your camera so we can just hear your voice and not necessarily see your beautiful face. But we are going to talk about this. Oh, by the way, got to remember this announcement. Listen, let me put it in here so you can have it there right before you. Get that link right there. I'll put it back in there in a minute. But I want you to go to brainstormforlife.com, brainstormforlife.com. Let me see, where is that? I wanted it to scroll at the bottom, but it's not scrolling. Where is it? Okay, I can't find it. Brainstormforlife.com, and you can sign your young person up for tutoring. What we're going to do, I'm going to bring my expertise into the mix here and help your young person excel in mathematics and science. And that's mathematics at all levels. It doesn't matter if he or she is in engineering, mathematics, engineering, statics and dynamics, chemistry. Biology is the only subject of the sciences that I would say I'm not proficient at, but we can find somebody to help. So go to Brainstorm for Life, brainstormforlife.com, and sign your young person up. So I got some ideas, guys, and I really want to do this. It's in my lane, you know what I'm saying? It's my lane, so I want to stay in my lane. Also, the National Society of Black Engineers. Now, I'm an advisor for NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers. You can also go to brainstormforlife.com, and then I'll get in touch with the community in your area, the NSBE community in your area, so that your young person can become part of the Society of Scientists and Engineers. There's a lot of scholarships, a lot of training, a lot of help, a lot of tutoring. National Society of Black Engineers. Go to brainstormforlife.com and click on that, and I'll make sure whatever area you're in, I will get a hold to that person in your area and get your young person signed up in the National Society of Black Engineers. National Society of Black Physicists also. Somebody wants to, I mean, we got the James Webb Space Telescope going now, and some of you might be interested in physics, in the study of the stars. Some of you might want to study that. So let's get on it. We got a nation to repair and build. Just the bottom line, people. So listen, I guess that's all the announcement. You can participate. Go to the link below. Tell somebody the night's program. I'm going to kind of give you a historical analysis of the subject that we are going to be dealing with this evening. Let's see if I can get this. Let's see if I can put that there. Our subject this evening is women as men. And now I'm coming at it from a clip that's been going viral, that has gone viral, I should say, by Bishop T.D. Jakes, in which, to me, it seems that he was somewhat frustrated at the progress of the Black community. And he's not saying this, what I'm saying at this point, but I just detected a frustration coming through this clip. Now I'm going to play you the audio portion of it, and then we'll discuss it. But Bishop Jakes appeared to be somewhat frustrated because he has for years been teaching on relationships and between men and women, husbands and wives, and courting and all that. And it appears that he has been a little perturbed because it seems to him that there's been a difficulty because the women appear to exhibit an excessive amount of masculine energy. And you just can't have two masculines in a heterosexual, I'm a heterosexual male, and you just can't have two masculines in a heterosexual relationship. It's just not going to work. There will be frustration. There will be a sense of separateness. And finally, divorce, which is predominant and prevailing across our society at a clip of about 67%. And the church, which touts itself as not being part of the world, appears to be just as susceptible to divorce as the world is. There seems to be no difference in the percentages of those who are in the church who are divorced and those who are in the world who are divorced. So that, with that being said, I want to play this clip of T.D. Jakes. Now I clipped about 2.5 minutes of the audio out of this. And then after I play the clip, we're going to discuss it. And I think that you're going to hear a discussion from this point of view, different from if you've heard a lot of discussion on this clip. I think that the point of view that I'm going to give you is going to be somewhat different as well as eye-opening. So we'll be right back after the clip. This is T.D. Jakes.
If Adam had not allowed Eve to pour into him, sin would have never come into the world. Sin came into the world because Adam broke the order. We were not designed to receive from women. Your self-esteem is compromised when you have to ask your wife for lunch money. I'm not saying you got to be rich. I'm not saying you got to be famous. I'm saying that you have got to be the one who pours in, not the one who takes out. When Adam started eating out of his wife's hand, sin came in because the divine order was broken. This breaks all sociological orders of the culture we're living in now, because we are raising up women to be men. And you are not applauded for your femininity. You are applauded in the contemporary society by how tough, rough, nasty, mean, aggressive, hateful, possessive you are, and you are climbing the corporate ladder, but we are losing our families. I know you can buy your own car. I know you can buy your own house. But until you create a need that I can pour into, I have no place in your life. So stop coming home bragging to me about how much you don't need me and wonder why I shy away. Oh, y'all ain't gonna talk back to me this morning. The conversation has become, let's prove to the men how dispensable they are. And it is born out of pain because we hurt you and betrayed you and lied to you and cheated to you. And you became like you became out of pain. Oh, Lord, I told you they wasn't gonna like this, Jesus.
Well, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that clip? Now, T.D. Jakes is a Christian minister, a Christian bishop. I've been listening to T.D. Jakes from the early 2000s, the late 90s, early 2000s. I've been listening to T.D. Jakes, Bishop Jakes. And I want to, just for the sake of pointing out where I differ from some of his presumptions, just for the sake of the discussion, just for the sake of the discussion, I'm going to just point out some of the areas that I disagree with first, in order to kind of give you a starting point of the discussion. Now, he's a Christian minister, a traditional Black Christian minister, and he runs a church here in Texas, very huge mega church, prosperous church. Some of the things that he speaks to, he presumes, first of all, the Adam and Eve story introduced an idea of sin. And by the way, I want you to listen to Brother Dwayne Turner. He's doing a series on the book of Romans, and you will see the logic that Paul, who is the author or presumed author of the book of Romans, go through to help Christians relinquish the whole idea of sin. I mean, Paul even goes and talks about reckon yourself dead to sin. I can't get y'all to stop thinking about it, that you can't be a sinner. So listen, since you think you are a sinner, and since you believe that dead men do not know anything, then when it comes to sin, I want you to reckon yourself dead to that. So that's where I come down on this whole idea of sin. If you want to believe it was real, then go ahead. But anyway, Brother Turner or Pastor Dwayne Turner is doing a series on that out of the book of Romans. And I'm telling you, the book of Romans is a brilliant analysis of this. And some of the things that's in it is kind of, well, you know, check him out. Brother Dwayne Turner. He's doing the thing on the book of Romans. Dwayne Turner. And it shows the logic of Paul, especially in chapters 7, 8, and 9, I believe, of that book. But the idea of sin coming into the human spirit, I take a little bit of different approach with that. I take the approach that it is an idea, a thought that you can't make real. It's a hallucination, and we try to act out of that hallucination. So Bishop Jake starts with this idea of sin coming into the human family as a reality. So now I want to deal with this whole idea of women as men, and I'm dealing with it from the standpoint that this whole phenomenon is the natural outgrowth of another thought of sin, if you will. This idea of Willie Lynch. So you're going to get a little history today when we talk about women as men. And when I'm using women as men, I'm referring to, ladies, a energy of masculinity that has developed within the culture to where there is a struggle for supremacy as a male or a masculine energy. There is a struggle between the male, the masculine, who is naturally masculine, the male who is naturally masculine, and the female who is artificially masculine and has an abundance of masculinity. And as a result of that abundance of masculinity being exhibited within the culture, there is this struggle going on and this frustration going on, and people are starting to take sides, and there are things happening. Black men are talking. We're talking, we're having a conversation. We're getting passports. We're recognizing our value and the value that the human family around the world has on us. We're discovering that people want to know who we are. And people want to get to know us. And we're starting to take trips and meet people and get passports. And we're discovering a lot of things. This conversation is going on. And it is an uncomfortable discussion. And I believe that the reason the discussion is so uncomfortable is because we're not going to the root of the matter and dealing with it from the standpoint of where the root is. And we're looking at one another and blaming each other for something that is rooted someplace else. And we are holding the thoughts that come from that root in our mind. Let's get busy tonight. I'm saying that this frustration of women having a difficult time with men and men having a difficult time with women, and Bishop Jakes centered on the women. He said, you are full of masculine energy. And then he turned around and blamed us for it. We have betrayed you. We have hurt you. We have done this. We have done that. I want to take it to another level. And it's Pastor Dwayne. I see you, Pastor Dwayne, and I'm going to get you in here if you want to come in a little later. But I want to speak to this, and you can kind of help me to maneuver this. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you got two broken glasses, and one of the one of the glasses is red and the other one is blue, the red one can't say to the blue one nor the blue one to the red one, it's your fault that I'm broken. We both broken. How you going to tell the difference? So even though Bishop put the onus on the male for why you are masculine, I want to take it a little higher than that. I'm saying that I am not the reason that you are masculine. You are a creation of God, not of me. In this picture here that you're looking at, you notice here this slave master has a whip, and this man is on one knee, and he's appears to be begging for his child back. And in the background, you see another individual, and then on the left-hand side, you see a bunch of women who are naked from the, they're naked, their tops are naked, and all their backs are turned as though they're in shame. I'm here to suggest to you, ladies, that the natural outgrowth of your masculinity is not my betrayal of you, not my hurting of you. But of a thought that not only you, but we all share in. And this thought is the thought of the philosophy of Willie Lynch. Now, Willie Lynch is purported to be a slave owner who in the 1700s came on the banks of the George River and talked to slave owners about how to better manage their plantations. I first heard about this whole Willie Lynch letter, and I've read it several times. I first heard about it or heard it in 1995 at the historic Million Man March when Minister Farrakhan read this letter. And it gives an outline of how the slave masters could perpetuate the thought system of slavery 300 years out. Now, there are those, now I'm getting to women as men, stay with me here, because you're going to get an education and you might want to get your pencil and pad out because, you're going to get an education here. I'm not just hooping and hollering at you and asthma hooting and trying to sound like the spirit has got a hold on me. I'm trying to speak to you as from a rational, knowledgeable man to rational and knowledgeable people. There are those who say that this Willie Lynch letter was a hoax. And so the first thing it behooves me to do is to address it from that standpoint so you won't in your mind throw out the whole argument I'm attempting to make before I even get started making it. So I'm going to address that whole idea of Willie Lynch being a hoax by asking you the question, was Willie Lynch a real person, and was the letter, the Willie Lynch letter, authentic? And here are the basic claims that it was a hoax. The first claim that's glaring is the language in the letter. The language used in the Willie Lynch letter was not used until the late 20th century, though this letter was purported to have been written in the 1700s. But the language in the letter was not used during that time. So we'll give that the language was not used, that the language in the Willie Lynch letter was not language that a person of that time would be using. And then the second reason why people call the Willie Lynch letter a hoax and not authentic. But there was a man named William Lynch during the Revolutionary War. But this Willie Lynch was born 30 years after the Willie Lynch letter had been purported to have been written. So how can the Willie Lynch letter be read, before after Willie Lynch was born, or before Willie Lynch was born? Then the last thing is Minister Farrakhan first read the letter. And so Minister Farrakhan, during the historic Million Man March on October 16th, 1995, was the first person to read this letter. He never indicated whether or not it was real. In fact, I've gone back to the speech. I was there. I heard it from beginning to end. I took the pledge that we took at the Million Man March. I was there, so I heard him when he read it. And Minister Farrakhan didn't necessarily say that this was true, but he read it as though it was true. So I want to say that I think that we can reasonably conclude that the Willie Lynch letter was not authentic given the person it was attributed to and the time it was attributed to. We can go to the language when the language was used, and it was about the late 20th century. So we can say from the language that it was written sometimes in the 20th century. We'll go there with that. Now, we can say the same thing. Buckle your seatbelts. Y'all know I'm always giving you a bumpy ride. We can say the same thing about the Bible. We can say that the language attributed to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that the authors were, that it was written sometimes a century after Jesus Christ. But we follow that as though it's true. So how can we reconcile this? How can we take something that we see has some validity to it with respect to the logic of it, but yet say that the thing was not authentic for the time that it was attributed to be authentic? How can we reconcile that? I say we reconcile it by the very fact of what it is, a thought that was taken on by the thinkers. And this thought of Willie Lynch gave birth to the changing of roles in the male and the female. And let me show you by going to my next slide. Was the process of Willie Lynch used during slavery? Now, we can say that the Willie Lynch letter was not authentic. But I want to ask you, was the process of Willie Lynch used during slavery? Was the process that was outlined in the Willie Lynch letter used to create slaves? To bolster that question and to give you my answer in advance when I'm saying yes, this process was used, I want to read to you something that we know existed and a thing that was actually said in real history to give an indication of the process of Willie Lynch. I don't know if I clarified that enough. I'm going to give you a slave owner and what he said. And I want you to see, as we read the Willie Lynch letter, whether or not this process was used that's outlined in the Willie Lynch letter, whether or not this process was used in real life. Pass as severe laws as you will to keep these unfortunate creatures in ignorance. Now, I'm reading to you Henry Berry, who was a delegate after the Nat Turner Rebellion. They the slave owners had a conference to try to deal with this whole idea of the slave rebellions. And Henry Berry was a Virginia delegate, a senator of the state of Virginia. And this is what he said regarding the Nat Turner Rebellion and what they need to do about slavery and slave making. Henry Berry says, quote, "Pass as severe laws as you will to keep these unfortunate creatures in ignorance. It is vain unless you can extinguish that spark of intellect which God has given them." I'm going to hit that right there. He said you can pass as many severe laws as you will. Beat them, fillet them, hang them, crush them. But it is in vain unless you can extinguish that spark of intellect which God has given them. Let any man who advocates slavery, and I didn't make the space between there, examine the system of laws that we have adopted from stern necessity, it might be said, towards these creatures. We have, as far as possible, closed every avenue by which the light may enter the slave's mind. If we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. They would then be on the level of the beasts of the field, and we should be safe. Do you hear that? They've passed laws. They've done everything they could to close every avenue by which light can enter slaves' mind. Light, ladies, mean knowledge. Light means knowledge. They have closed every avenue by which light may enter the slave's mind. But if we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. They would then be on the level of the beast, and we should be safe. Let me say something about that. I have always said to you that in creation, in the philosophy behind creation, you must have male and female, masculine energy and feminine energy, and that wisdom and love have a feminine energy. Knowledge and light has a masculine energy. So we have, far as possible, closed every avenue by which the light can enter the slave's mind. The masculine energy can enter the slave's mind. If we could extinguish the capacity, I'm saying it again, knowledge and light have a masculine energy. Wisdom and love have a feminine energy. So they're trying to extinguish the light from entering the slave's mind. If we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work will be complete. They would then be on the level of the beasts of the field, and we should be safe. If we can get knowledge and the ability for you to even comprehend or get knowledge, their work would be complete because you would be on the level of the beast. I want you to put a pin in that, because when I send you back to Genesis chapter 2 and we start talking about the beast being named, the beast of the field being named, and Adam was put there and he was looking at the beast and started equating himself with the beast by saying, I'm not like the beast, you will understand what I'm talking about. To make a slave, you have to take knowledge from him, ladies. You cannot make a knowledgeable individual a slave. You cannot make a male and female, I don't care how poor they are. If they got knowledge, you cannot make them a slave for long, that is. They will begin, if you take knowledge from them, they will be on the level of the beast. How do the beast think? What is the level of the beast? The beast functions on food, having sex, and fighting. That is the level of the beast of the field. Without knowledge, you will be reduced to eating or gluttony, having sex, and fighting. And this level is, you are brought to this level by the extraction from not only light, but your very ability, ladies, to actually comprehend the light. It's like taking you and poking your eyes out with a stick. You no longer have the apparatus to comprehend the light, to even get access to the light, to get the capacity to see the light. You got to take the masculine out of the picture to do that. We have only to go one step further. This is Henry Berry. To extinguish the capacity to see the light, and our work would be complete. They would be reduced to the level of the beast of the field, and we should be safe. I am not certain that we would not do it. Listen, if we could find out the necessary process, and that process under the plea of necessity, we would do this. We would extinguish the capacity for you to see the light, to comprehend the light, the very ability for you to see it. If we could just find the process to do that. But why can't we do that? Look at the next paragraph. But sirs, this is impossible. Can a man be in the midst of free men and not know what freedom is? Can he feel that he has the power to assert his liberty? Notice it's in the masculine, ladies. And will he not do it? Yes, with the certainty of time, will he do it whenever he has the power. Now, I want to say something about the certainty of time, and you, brothers, will do it. And you notice that they were talking about the process. If we could discover the process, what is the process of extinguishing the very capacity for them to see the light? What is that process that they were trying to find? It is the process of time. And what is the process of time? The process, buckle up, reverend, buckle up, pastor, buckle up, preacher, buckle up, bishop. The process of time, you read that in the Bible, and during the process of time, this happened and that happened. You read this in the Bible, talking about the process of time. What is the process of time? The process of time is evolution. The process of time is evolution. So here he was looking at the process. What is the process of time? In the Bible, it talks about, and during the process of time, they're watching to see what time produce. Time produce evolution. When you are in time, you are in the process of evolution. So he's trying to discover, we would do this, we would be safe, because they would no longer have the capacity to appreciate or suspect or even think about or even get the time or light, because they wouldn't have the apparatus, the necessary apparatus to actually get the light. So we need some time to do this. So let's keep going. Now that, ladies and gentlemen who don't believe that the Willie Lynch letter is true, I'm saying that even if the Willie Lynch letter is not authentic, that the process that the Willie Lynch letter outlined was used during slavery, and therefore we can use the Willie Lynch letter to understand, to help us understand what the process was to make slaves perpetually, to where you can be freed and be a free slave. You now have the rank of free slave. You are free to come and go as you will, but you will not go. You're a free slave. Still a slave with freedom to leave. You have been set free, but you're about to be made free. And the difference between being set free and made free is like a bird in a cage. You open the cage up and the bird can go if he want or not go. He's set free. He can stay or leave. But if you open the cage up and reach in and take the bird out of the cage and push him out and lock the door behind him to where he can no longer get back into the cage, then he has been made free. And that is the difference. We're about to be, or we're being made free right now, ladies and gentlemen. But in order to perpetuate slavery, they had to discover the process of evolution, which is the process of time. Now, going back to the Willie Lynch, and I'm talking about what Brother T.D. Jakes said, but I'm giving it to you from a spiritual, physical, psychological point of view. Here's Willie Lynch. I'm giving it to you not just as an analysis where you can go away shaking your head and say, yeah, that's right, that brother telling the truth. No, this is what you can use. Here, now we're back at the Willie Lynch letter here. They are dangerous near the family. This is Willie Lynch talking. Near the family house, and it requires too much labor to watch them away from the house. Above all, you cannot get them to work in this natural state. Now remember, the process of time is evolution. Hence, both the horse and the Negro must be broken. That is breaking them from one form. Remember, I talked about form on Sunday. Now I'm going to talk about form, how to change the form later on, or this coming Sunday. We're going to deal with the form and how do you actually change the form. But that is breaking them from one form of mental life to another. Keep the body, take the mind. When you keep the body, in other words, keep you focused on your body. Your body is the thing that makes you who you are. This is what they're doing. They're saying, make you identify yourself with the body, but take your mind, make you disregard the power of your mind, because if they take the mind, they're taking knowledge, they're taking light from you. And when light is taken, then you think of yourself only as a body. And when you think of yourself only as your body, you do nothing but eat, have sex, and fight. And you completely identify yourself with the body. Keep the body, take the mind. In other words, break the will to resist. Now, the breaking process is the same for both the horse and the Negro, only slightly varying in degrees. Now, do you see evolution in here? Evolution of knowledge. Their knowledge follows the path of evolution, just like physical forms follow the path of evolution. It grows and it adjusts and it changes and it orients itself to fit in the environment which it finds itself. And he's saying the breaking process is the same for both the horse and the Negro, only slightly varying in degrees. This is what happens when you study someone. This is what happens when you study the nature of someone. This is what happens when you are scientifically approaching a situation. If I can put you in superstition and make you approach things from a superstitious hocus pocus, dominocus, and then tell you that, yeah, God created everything. The universe is created by God, but you dare not study the universe. And when it comes down to a conflict between what you observe and what you study in the universe and what you read in the book, you throw out the laws of the universe. But the only thing you cannot change are the laws of the universe, which is a testimony to its creator. And even in the book of Romans, I believe, Minister Dwayne, it speaks for that which can be known of God is clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. So how can you then say that evolution is not true when you have not studied the universe? Evolution of knowledge, evolution of biology, evolution of thought, all of it evolves. This is the process of time, and it does not knock out a creator if you think that that's what's happening. You don't know, ladies and gentlemen, your own power and what you have decided to do by coming into time. Now, that's a whole different subject, but I want to tell you, you don't know your power. I continue. But as we said before, there is an art in long-range economic planning. If you do not think that there's an art, that there's a science behind populations, mating, there's a science behind mating and reproduction. You will lay with any and everybody and have kids by any and everybody, and then blame the person you laid with for your malady, for your problem. There is a science behind reproduction and mating. It is not haphazard unless you've been reduced to the level of the beast. Then when you reduce to the level of the beast, you won't mind this one and that one and this one and that one. I continue. You must. Now, here is the bottom line. Here is where we're going to deal with what Bishop said about the female becoming a man, a woman as a man. The female and offspring is key. I want to first deal with the very title of this slide. If you notice, I got the female and offspring. It's two individuals there, but I have the singular is key. It should be the female and offspring are keys or are the key. But I intentionally put that is there so that you can understand it in terms of the oneness of the female and the offspring. And so Willie Lynch continues, you must keep your eye and thoughts on the female and the offspring of the horse and the Negro. A brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay little attention to the generation of the original breaking, but concentrate on the future generation. Now, I'm here to tell you, just like in the Declaration of Independence, when you notice Thomas Jefferson called the King of England Christian, and he put it in bold, and he said the Christian king, and he talked about it in terms of making slaves and then causing these slaves to rise up and fight for freedom against people who want to be free. He spoke of it in terms of Christianity, of him being a Christian and him being a hypocrite. So now I'm going to take this piece right here so that you will see that there's no difference between the thinking of the slave master and the thinking of what the slave master gave you as Christianity. In the Bible, in the book of Genesis, you will notice in chapter 2 a story of Adam and Eve. And you will notice in that story of Adam and Eve, it talks about the purpose for which Adam and Eve were brought to their place, or the man. He was first brought to the place as a man, and then he was divided into male and female, separate. You got to see the pattern here. Separated, and then the female was given knowledge of her separateness, her individuality from the male, and the male was given his philosophy of separateness from the female. They were one when they were brought into the garden. Why did they have to be separated? And why was the man put to sleep? When you put a mind to sleep, it is synonymous with taking knowledge from that mind. And so the male, they were put to sleep and then separated while they were asleep. And then you have this whole story of Adam and Eve. And in this garden story, you see this situation, and they were told not to eat from the tree of knowledge, of light, of good and evil. And read it for yourself, but think about it. Now, going back to this slide I'm at, where Willie Lynch says, pay little attention to the generation of the original breaking or the original separating, but concentrate on the future generation. Going back to the story of the Genesis, you will notice that after Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, that there's no more discussion after the babies were born, Cain and Abel. There's no more discussion about Adam and Eve after Cain and Abel, except Seth was born sometime later during the process of time. But you will notice after that, the entity purporting to be God began to concentrate on the children, Cain and Abel. And you notice that they brought this sacrifice or offering to him. And you see this manipulation going on. And the jealousy being created. This is the future generation for a purpose. So Willie Lynch says, concentrating, and I'm telling you this story this way so that you can see that the same process was used no matter what institution you are discussing. The process when it comes to you is the same. Concentrate on the future. Therefore, if you break the female mother, she will break the offspring in its early years of development, and when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver the offspring up to you, for her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. What is her normal tendencies? Her normal tendencies would be to teach that boy his power, his equality, his intellect. But because she's functioning in fear and she's broken, and Pastor, I want you to deal with this brokenness, man, because I've been getting a whole bunch of calls on this. So I'm gonna bring you in a minute. I'm sorry, you cannot sit here and listen and not have anything to say. I got to let you talk. But if you break the offspring, the female and the broken male will deliver the offspring up. So now let me ask you something. So to illustrate this point that I just made, do you all remember a few years ago, and I wish I had a thought about it because I would have played the clip for you. A few years ago, there was this situation where a young black man had been killed, and all these young people were out throwing rocks at the police. And this woman walks up on her son throwing rocks at the police, and she commenced in public to beating the hell out of her son for the world to see, for throwing rocks at the police who had just killed a man in cold blood. Now, you've been getting the police killing young men in cold blood ever since. But I want you to understand what will happen if, do you think that the Ukrainians are teaching their children, the Ukrainian women are teaching their children to cooperate with the Russians? This is just to illustrate the point that it is not your natural tendency. It is not your nature. So Willie Lynch said that if you break the mother and father, the mother, you pay more attention to the female, you break her dependence, and it goes off into a whole lot of other stuff about taking the biggest, baddest bull and bring the women and children out there and make them watch you slaughter and torture this man in front of the women and children, so they would have a disconnection between getting protection from the man. And so here you are with a masculine energy in 2022. Can't trust me. You don't trust that I will give my life for you. You don't trust that I will think in advance and plot a future for our children. You don't trust that I would do that because you've been taught generation after generation, and you've been delivering your sons up for generations to the very thought system that makes you a man in a female body. And it doesn't work for you. The very thought system. Pastor, what say ye?
I think we have a delay here because I can't hear you on my phone, so I'm gonna have to listen to you on the TV.
Okay. I don't know if okay, so there's a delay. You want me to you want to get back on your computer or something, and then you can go like that, or you just want to listen in. Okay, we'll let you handle that. Okay. All right. So I was trying to bring the pastor in, Pastor Dwayne in, and just text me, brother, and let me know when you're ready, and then I'll bring you on in. But listen, ladies and gentlemen. So now going back to what Brother T.D. Jake said I want to play it again for those who may have missed it, who may have gotten in on the broadcast a little late. I'm going to bring Brother T.D. Jakes in again.
Allowed Eve to pour into him, sin would have never come into the world. Sin came into the world because Adam broke the order. We were not designed to receive from women. Your self-esteem is compromised when you have to ask your wife for lunch money. I'm not saying you got to be rich. I'm not saying you got to be famous. I'm saying that you have got to be the one who pours in, not the one who takes out. When Adam started eating out of his wife's hand, sin came in because the divine order was broken. This breaks all sociological order of the culture we're living in now, because we are raising up women to be men. And you are not applauded for your femininity. You are applauded in the contemporary society by how tough, rough, nasty, mean, aggressive, hateful, possessive you are, and you are climbing the corporate ladder, but we are losing our families. I know you can buy your own car. I know you can buy your own house. But until you create a need that I can pour into, I have no place in your life. So stop coming home bragging to me about how much you don't need me and wonder why I shy away. Oh, y'all ain't gonna talk back to me this morning. The conversation has become, let's prove to the men how dispensable they are. And it is born out of pain because we hurt you and betrayed you and lied to you and cheated to you. And you became like you became out of pain. Oh, Lord, I told you they wasn't gonna like this, Jesus.
Well, a couple of things I want to say to that. He said that you are not applauded for your femininity, but you applauded for how rough and tough and mean you can be. He talked about, he said that we hurt you, and that's how you develop. I'm going to, for the sake of just peace, just say, okay, I'll acquiesce to that if you believe I have the power to hurt you. He says that we betrayed you and cheated. And he talked about we need to be able to pour in you. See, this is what I was speaking to when I said about the evolutionary process. The masculine pours into, the woman receives, or the feminine receives, and the feminine produces the material. Now, that part is a hard pill to swallow, ladies, when you realize that the way the world looks is because the female have decided to give birth to it through hurt and pain. If we want to start talking about it in terms of separation, I know that we all do it. We all participated in this drama. Let me bring in my brother and see.
I can hear you now.
Brother,
yes, sir.
You gonna get me out of trouble here? You gonna get me out of trouble?
I think you're gonna be in trouble with Bishop.
I don't think he's tuning in, but
yeah,
but he might.
I think the thing is that in church we have the propensity to get in our feelings when things hurt, and I think from his message, knowing of him and following him all these years, I know he teaches from a perspective of understanding, especially being his history of women that are loose all these years. They just finished
Right.
up doing it this past
Right.
year, but that's 20, 25, 30 almost years that they did that. So I know from a perspective of a man, he's definitely not digging at women per se.
Yes.
However, the truth does hurt. And I'll just put that out there. And I think we sometimes have to go back to throughout history, biblically and naturally, and understand where we are as a people. And when I say a people, since he's talking to the ladies, he's talking to ladies in general, but he's speaking in direct line to the women of color.
Yes.
Because they were the ones that have been really affected by this institutional downgrading of our people. And I think as a church, we don't teach that enough. You get it in the Episcopal Church, you get it in the AME Church, you get it in some of the other churches, sometimes your Baptist churches, you get it in there. But when it comes to your Holy Ghost filled, speaking in tongues, fire, baptized churches, you're not going to get too much of the radical teaching. You're going to get more of your spiritual teaching, and people are not going to really understand themselves for who they are. Yeah. And that's kind of where Bishop is getting to, because this is a time, and I was just speaking of this yesterday on our broadcast we had on Facebook, that this is a time that God is stirring up truth in his people. And you don't have to be a part of the Christian fold for him to start stirring you up, because we're all his people. Whether you follow Christ, whether you don't follow Christ, whatever you got going on, he made us all. And so at the end of the day, we all are a part of that kingdom mindset. And so now he's stirring up to where truth is coming out. And I used to hear preachers back in the day teach on this very thing, on kingdomship, and people would look at them and laugh them out. Oh, it ain't part of our doctrine. But it's coming true right now, what they were teaching back in the 80s and 90s, that God was getting ready to stir up truth because the scripture spoke so. Paul always said that the truth. Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free or set you free, depending on what version you are.
Right.
But Paul said in the book of 2 Timothy 2:15, he said that we are to study to show thyself or ourself approved, as a workman need not being ashamed, but rightly dividing the words of truth. So therefore, not understanding what per se the scriptures have to say, but understanding what truth has to say. Because when we parse it down, the 66 books that we read are not even the original script.
Right.
And so we have to always come to a point of understanding that. If we just break it down and we put our paws into the ground and 10 toes down and all 10 fingers down to earth, and we don't want to budge because we said it's the 66 books and that's it. I don't want to hear nothing else. We lie to ourselves. Even Jesus said it to the scribes and Pharisees back then. He said that you understand what the law of Moses said. That's cool. You understand the Levitical law, but there's no such law in the kingdom of heaven. There's no such law in the kingdom of God. He kept on saying that, and every time they rebutted him and browbeated him and browbeated him back and whatever, he said, you know what? You are just like your father, the devil. And he just let them off and rid them off, and he kept on going. And I think we have to understand that we have been institutionalized and brainwashed by this system that was taught by the Willie Lynch syndrome, and not just Willie Lynch, but there's other articles and pieces of papers out there that people were teaching different ways. But if you just go to reality that's in front of you, I am 50 years old, and in my 50 years of living, well, I'll say my 48 years of living, I ain't gonna count the first 2 years, but in the 48 years of me living, I've understood that people that you meet every day, they have a direct effect on your life, good, bad, or indifferent. And if those people choose to impart into you good, then you're going to have good that come out. But you got to think about it. 92% of the people that you meet in life are there to manipulate you because they want out of you what they want out of you. And so they're going to use whatever tools and things at their disposal to get you to like them, to get you to trust them, and get you to do exactly what they want you to do. Be there emotionally for them, physically there for them, spiritually there for them, however that monetarily, whatever it is they're trying to get out of you, they're going to manipulate that out of you. Why are we like that as a people? Why are we like that as a society? Right. Because we've been taught that. We've been taught that in the scriptures. We've been taught that in society. We've been taught that by laws. The laws that they make, you just put that up earlier. The laws were written to get us into a place of compliance. The scriptures say, where there is no law, there is no sin.
Transgression. Yeah.
Just think about that. Where there is no law, you have no transgression. You have no ought. You have no fault. And so when there is an introduction of a rule, that's when you now are subject to that rule, if you want to be. Now, we talk about Bonnie and Clyde and all them people. What was that? What were they named? They known for? Breaking the rules because they didn't like it.
Let me ask you this, Pastor Dwayne.
Go ahead.
I'm always talking about your program, and I got this here because it's loud in my ear, and
go ahead.
I gotta have it away from my ear. But when are you? And I'm telling everybody about this book of Romans that you study. When is that program? When do you air on that? Could you just I just want to make sure they understand this, get this out there.
Most definitely. I'm doing the study every Sunday, and I'm not doing it live right now. I'm actually just video recording the actual message every time. It's probably about 25 to 35 minute long each time, and I'm just covering a book or two at a time. And I upload it on my YouTube and via my Facebook, and put a link on my Instagram as well. And that's what I'm doing right now. Until I get my subscribers up on my YouTube, then I'll probably start doing it live at that point in time. Or I may just go to Instagram and do Instagram live on it as well, or Facebook live. But every Sunday, I'm going to do the recording and upload it Sunday evening, pretty much every Sunday. And after we do the book of Romans, I'm going to go to the next book after that. And in between, I'll probably be doing some other messages and topics, just really depending on what people's questions are and what they really need.
What I would like to do on that is continue to listen, and then I want to have you on after you have completed the book of Romans, because this whole thing of sin is very important in terms of our psychology and rising above emotions and into the mind of God. So if you don't mind, I'd like to, after you finish, I'll listen to all of them, and then we'll come back and we'll kind of work on that, if that's okay with you.
Most definitely. So, we can definitely do that. Yes, sir. And it's funny about sin because it goes back directly to what you're talking about now. It's about that moment of controlling. If I control your mind, your emotions, and your thoughts, then I don't have to worry about the rest. I don't have to worry about that you can lift 550 pounds bench press and you can deadlift 1,000 pounds. I don't have to worry about all that, because if I control your mind, your thoughts, and your emotions, then everything else about you is in control. And
so what do you think in terms of how do you kind of sense? Give me your feelings on this whole piece that we've played twice. And then, of course, the piece is a little longer, and he says some other things, but I got the gist of it out of here. What Pastor Jake said with this masculinity of women. And I'm just going to be upfront, man. I have noticed it. And even my son, my 17-year-old who is now dating, and he comes to me and he speaks to me, and he doesn't use these terms. He doesn't know what he's dealing with, but I can detect what he's dealing with based on how he describes the situation at hand and what he should do. So how does the church, now you're a pastor, so I'm going to put you on the hot seat. What has the church done to enhance this masculine orientation of women? And you know the church is filled with women and very few men. How has the church participated in this, making women as men. And what's the way out? I'll just give it to you in one question.
All right. The church has participated in our teachings, and not only our teachings, our examples, and not to put it to a point, because I think I heard a lady on Instagram, and she was going off. She was going off for real on Bishop, and her offense is that she felt he was saying that she couldn't teach, she couldn't lead, she couldn't do whatever, and she went to that moment and that perspective of it. And I think that's the problem in this day and age, because it is a snippet moment. You know, I think he preached for about an hour or so on that message,
right?
But we're going to only get the 5 minutes or less of that moment, and we're going to take it from that moment instead of because I actually didn't hear the whole message. I just heard a little bit of it, and when I heard the backlash, I had to go back and listen to the whole message.
Whole message,
and,
yeah.
You know, yeah, because I was just flipping through YouTube and I heard it way before everybody got offended.
Right.
And then I had to go back and actually go and look at it again from start to finish, just to get it in context. And so we as a church, we have taught our women to be strong, to be bold, to be upfront, to be victorious, because that's what the scriptures say that you are able to do.
Mm-hmm.
However, I remember back in the day, the mothers of the church would also teach the women to be a woman. You know, the scriptures that my wife loves to quote Proverbs 31 about being a virtuous woman.
Yes.
And we look at that scripture and people go through, but when you read that scripture about a virtuous woman, it actually has that woman going out and earning the meat and making this and doing this. So she's out there earning her keep and bringing home the things for the family, raising the family, doing the things for the family. And it doesn't even make mention of the man doing his manly duties. It only makes mention of the woman doing her womanly duties that actually seem to be manly duties. And then it also says that she's making sure that she's the protector and the keeper of the family unit and getting them where they need to be. And I think
how does that play out in feminine energy? For example,
it plays out because of lack of teaching on that very scripture. The feminine side is not taught on that scripture, to where, as Bishop was saying, she's out there earning, she's making the 6 figures, the 7 figures, or whatever. But when she gets home, her husband, he's the one that's at home because she's making the money. And guess what? He's never been taught to nurture the kids. He's never been taught to protect the home.
Now we're back at today's women. Now we're not talking about the virtuous woman.
I'm talking about the virtuous woman. Okay. And so you have to remember, it's a catch-22, because when the pastors are up there preaching and the ministers are up there preaching, they have to preach both sides of that scripture.
Yes.
They can't just teach the one. We like I said, we always hear the virtuous woman. Oh, I'm a virtuous woman. Okay, cool. So what does that entitle? What does that entail? And it entails you to be all of those things that Bishop said.
Right.
Be victorious, be successful. However, it also entails for you to be that virtuous woman at home as well. It's to be the protector of the home, to be that bearer of the children, to be the things that you have to be at home. Now, are we saying you're supposed to be barefoot and pregnant? Because I think it's what most of the women are saying. No, that's not what the scriptures say, and I don't think it's what Bishop Jake said. Sarita would have came up on that stage and dragged him off herself. I'm just gonna be real with you. So, we would have saw a nice little moment live on TV.
We would have been talking about where's Will Smith when you need him.
Yes, sir. When you talk about Will Smith, that would have been a whole different moment right there. And so people have to understand exactly what we're facing when we get into that. The church has failed. The church has failed to teach that in this society, that, hey, we have a responsibility on both sides. We have a responsibility to let the young women know that you are able to go out there and play sports and do the things you're supposed to do. Do what God gave you and blessed you to do. However, you have a responsibility as well. If you choose to settle down and raise a family, you have a responsibility on that too. Then does that negate the man from being a nurturer and a caretaker? And no, it does not. However, as Bishop said, our families are failing because they don't have the mother in the home being the mother.
And as well, and I think it's more or less like going back to the virtuous woman that you spoke to. She's the one going out, and it doesn't mention the male, but we know that the man has his responsibility also. But I think it's more of an attitude that has been developed. This whole virtuous woman attitude by virtue has been manipulated to think in terms of separation and independence from, rather than interdependence with. It is only the black woman walking around here talking about I'm independent and strong. You don't hear Asian women saying I'm strong, independent Asian woman, or Mexican women saying I'm strong, independent Mexican. We won't even, I mean, I had a person come over and install a chandelier in my home, and he brought his wife. She was 2 feet 3 inches tall.
Yeah.
And I said 2 feet 3 inches tall. And she was carrying a 7-foot ladder. And it was very difficult for me to let her carry the ladder. He was carrying a tool bag, and it was a Hispanic couple. Did great work. I watched them. They worked together. They installed the light. And I was compelled to assist her in carrying the ladder. The ladder was so much taller than her. But she, no, I got it. She looked at me like I was strange for offering to help, because she saw herself as part of this man's work. Couldn't speak a lick of English him. She did the talking, he did the work. She carried the ladder, he carried the tool bag. My point being, this idea of independent. She didn't see herself as independent, but she was strong.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
And that's I think the difference that we get is that the women in this society have heard so many songs about being independent woman, being whatever. Beyonce and Destiny's Child, they talked about independence and everything. But if you look at Beyonce, she's independent. She makes her money and she does whatever. But if you have a chance to talk to her, she's at home doing the things she has to do at home as well. Would you not then? I want to approach it from the language and maybe hopefully get a psychological adjustment. Yeah.
I'm a strong, interdependent woman.
Yeah.
Why can't we just say, because I don't see a such thing as independence. I just don't see it.
Well,
I don't see us advancing. Even Bishop said, you can do this and you can do that. You get in your car, you can buy your car, but we're losing our families.
Well, I think the problem is that, and this is where it gets complicated, because there is fault to go everywhere.
If you want to think about it.
It's fault to go everywhere, with the church, with society, with us men as well. And because we have been absent. And I think at some point in time, every animal on this earth, everything on this earth evolves. And if you're always, and that was the purpose of Willie Lynch. That was the purpose of slavery. If I take the strong man away from the family and keep them away, if I take the strong stallion away from the stable, then I have access to the rest of the horses. I have access to the young buck when he comes up, and he's not a stallion yet, but he saw me the way I tamed his dad. He's going to keep his head down and he's going to keep going. And we have to understand that that's the mentality that we grow up with as animals and also as humans.
And I want to make a confession on that note, that my biggest struggle as a man, in spite of the fact that my father was a very strong brother.
Yeah.
My biggest struggle has been fear of myself.
Yes, sir.
Fear to do what I know how to do and what I know I can do. I have struggled with it for a long, long time, until I've realized that this is part of that DNA, that evolved DNA of always being second. And I notice it in some of my sons. I have one son, he puts everything in front of him. I say, no, man, the first bill you pay, he just got a good job. Oh, I'm so happy. Praise the Lord. Jesus on the main line. He got a good job. They recruited him out of college. He didn't even have to graduate yet. but anyway, long story short, I'm just glad he's bringing his own money.
Yes, sir.
But the point is, I got bills. I say, yeah, and the first bill is you.
Yes.
Put yourself at the top. And he resists that, as did I. I resisted that, putting myself at the top of the bill list. And it took a long time to practice that habit. People demanding money from me, and I'm saying, I got to pay this and I got to pay that. And I just kept on doing it a little at a time. My point being is that the psychology. Now, I'm one who believes that the thought never leaves the thinker. If you teach a man to be a slave, then you a slave also. So I think that those who have been teaching slave and have flourished in a slave reality are now discovering they're just as much in bondage as the ones they put in bondage. But that's a whole nother story. My thing, Pastor, is to take steps, and I'm just proud of you and the church that you are developing, or I should say the ministry that you are developing, that has the doctrine, but actually has a reality of where we're living in, the reality that we're living in and the things that you have to deal with.
Yes.
But can we change the language? I'm a strong interdependent, because that virtuous woman was strong. But believe me, I believe that scripture talked about her husband in it. Said something about her husband being proud or something.
Yes, it talked about her father. It talked about different things. And we have to get to a point, and you got to think about it, our women have been robbed of a lot. They've been robbed of their security. They've been robbed of their protection. And so that it caused them to evolve to that independent woman, that dominant woman, that male strong woman. And now we have to, and as Bishop Jakes is trying to do, is the first make you aware of it. That's the first step of an alcoholic, is to know that they are an alcoholic.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think at some point, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna have more, because the way I seen him on that video, he's gonna hit some more people too. So they might well get ready. Right now, he's just on the women. So the rest of y'all get ready. So
get ready.
It's a moment to where, as a church, we have to start breaking ourselves, like the potter with the clay, breaking ourselves. And once we break ourselves, and now it's time to teach, to mold back, and that's what our purpose is now. I was speaking to a young lady.
Is that where you think we are at this point? Do you think we have been broken enough to now be molded back together? Or are we somewhere else in that process?
No, we just started. We just started. And that's the moment that a lot of us don't know. If we were broken already, we wouldn't be having this conversation about what Bishop Jake said. So people are being broken, or some people are being brought down the road so they can't have the wreck to be broken.
Under this subject, Matt, that we're talking about, what would a broken list look like?
In this instance, just like it looks now, a lot of people are angry. A lot of people are in their feelings because they're looking at themselves, but at the same time, they're angry on Facebook. And when they look in that mirror, am I really what he said? Am I really at that moment?
Do you think that the males are like saying, nah? Do you think we're taking that position, or do you think it's another position?
If they are, they're a fool.
As a result of what
that way. But no, I think most men are standoffish because they are fearful of the angry woman. And so at the end of the day, a lot of the men are taking a step back and not speaking on it. And if they are, they're speaking on it mildly, or they're watching their words because of that moment. So I think
you see what happened to Kevin Samuels after he passed away. They were dancing.
That poor man. But some of that was self-inflicted. So, but then the other parts was just people not understanding where he was coming from. Everyone has a perspective. And if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, step back and say amen. And so it's the moment to where, we as men at this point don't need to say, I told you so, or listen to what he said. We just need to get to a point of praying. And if we have the platform to speak on the truths of why this is, because it's just not for the women, because guess what? The flip side is that most of our men are acting like the women.
Absolutely.
So
That
just,
is
yeah,
that's
just
exactly.
where he's saying that they are masculine, most of us are running around like we're a woman.
Well, we're
And so
woman.
what does that mean? You know, are we, does that mean that we're just doing this, doing that? No, it means that we have been taught to be so submissive to authority, to the master, to whatever you want to call it, until we have lost our unction to be that lion, to be the ruler of the jungle. We've lost that as Black men because we've been taught different. And if we feel it in ourselves, it's immediately beat out of us because we're put in jail, we're ostracized, we're this and that. We have tags and stuff put on our lives from our own issues and our own decisions. And we scour down to all of that instead of, because you got to remember, a lion in the jungle, he may have a whole lot going on. He may have just lost his pride, but his head is still up, and he's gonna look for a new one.
Absolutely.
Because he knows his purpose. He knows his stature. And we don't know that because most of us came from single parent households. Most of us if we came from a 2-parent household, then the mom and daddy both were beat down. So they were just surviving because they were scared to go out and do anything. And so we haven't been taught the strength of being a man. So now we have gotten lost in our feelings. There's nothing wrong with a man having emotions, having feelings, because you're supposed to. You're human. Yes. But if you're lost in those feelings and those emotions, then you can't tap into your manhood. So the message goes to both. He just didn't mention the men yet. Yes. But the women he was talking about, and those are the people that are offended now.
Well, Pastor, listen, we got to get out of here, man. I appreciate you coming. He's on Sundays. Is there a specific time or just Sunday evening? You just upload at a certain time?
Usually Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, I'll upload. So usually
what's the name of the program?
The name of the program is a study of the book of Romans. Okay. And that's what it is. I'm actually on chapter 6 now. Okay. There's 3 videos uploaded on my YouTube channel, the Kingdom Ministry Worldwide.
Kingdom Ministry Worldwide with Pastor Dwayne Turner. You might want to just become his friend on Facebook or wherever. And Pastor, man, I want to thank you for chiming in.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you, and I'll see you again next time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that seems like we are about to get out of here. I want to remind you of a couple of things. Listen, go to brainstormforlife.com. Sign your child up for tutoring. We have a manhood program. Also, we have the National Society of Black Engineers. I'll help them to become a member of NSB. Also, I'm doing something for the Million Man March. If you were at the Million Man March in 95, get in touch with me, Alonzo Fleming at Outlook.com. Alonzo Fleming at Outlook.com. I want to do some kind of commemoration and have everybody on here who was there or people who didn't go but wish they had gone. So get in touch with me. Brainstormforlife.com. I am Dr. Fleming, and I am out of here for today. I appreciate you joining me.